Brandon Aiyuk is talking to 2 teams, 3 teams, 0 teams, the 49ers. Who knows? There is training camp to talk about as well, too. But I'm here with Rob Stats Guerrero, and this is another episode of Bully Ball. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Rob Stats Guerrero, pinch hitting for Steph Sanchez, who is at training camp. Again, make sure you guys are tapped in with Steph's videos following training camp, where she empties the notebooks. A lot of good stuff in there. Rob, how are you, man?
I am struggling right now. All right. I'm struggling. I need the end of the uncertainty. Trade Aiyuk. Don't trade him. Whatever. Just do something.
Yeah. Well, here we are, August 6th, and I think a lot of us, including myself, had thought that this would resolve itself with an extension. And the more and more that the last few days have gone on, it hasn't really made me believe that it's not going to happen, but it's decreased severely, the chances, in my opinion. And I think the proper way to go about this is to go through the timeline. And what I mean is how we've been getting the information, what's been going on, and how it's been moving along to where we are today, which there are still updates coming out today with insiders and everything. So I guess the best place to start, Rob, would be with the Source Off Olympics on Twitter, right? A dog avatar, a guy named Marino, not Dan, named Cam, a bunch of people. Pittsburgh is a done deal with Brandon Aiyuk. Pittsburgh was named in the Pivot podcast with Washington as a place that Brandon Aiyuk wanted to go to. I think it was a natural fit for anybody who has eyes and ears, because they do need a wide receiver, and they did draft one. But we start there. And I find it kind of funny that during a time in which if there's ever anybody on 49ers Twitter in any way that has any sort of scoop or tries to source something, 49ers Twitter is so fast to say, you don't know anything, you have no sources, shut up, man. But a dog avatar and a guy who is not related to Dan Marino and someone else who is a radio host, they say this is happening, and it's set the world on fire. It's over. Let's say our goodbyes. I just find that part funny. So if you could comment on that for me, Rob, because I don't want to ever be a part of the whole source thing, right? If anybody tells me anything, I just keep it to myself. And I again, I don't know anything. And I'll always stand on I don't know anything, because there is no good way to go about this, because if you're right, no one cares. If you're wrong, everyone kills you. It's a dangerous, dangerous thing to be one of these source guys.
Every person has an agenda. Whether they got a dog avatar and they're making stuff up, if they are making stuff up, or whether they got a blue check mark next to their name. Everybody has an agenda. So you have to take everything you see with a giant grain of salt. And look, I hear things. People text me. I've been talking to people the last few days, and I've heard everything from people I trust. I've heard that an extension deal was done, and that they were trying to get other things in place with other players, and they were going to like rapid fire announce all of them, and it was going to be bing, bang, boom, full speed ahead. I've heard a trade deal to Cleveland was absolutely done. I have heard he's definitely going to play on the 5th-year option. I've heard it all. And you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. I know the 49ers beat writers love to make it seem like fans are overreacting just because we have some reaction at all to things that happen, unlike the 49ers beat that just sit on their hands and wait for NFL Network to break a story. I think that's hilarious. A team of beat writers that hasn't broken a story since friggin' Bill Clinton was in office likes to make fun of people who are actually trying to break news. That's great. So this whole saga has just been disappointing from every possible angle.
Fast forwarding after this, speaking of NFL Network, perfect. Tom Pelissero and Mike Garafolo are on a show called The Insiders, ironically. I don't even know if that's ironically, but it's just kind of funny while that's happening. And they're literally making fun of the Twitter insiders, like punching down. You you have a blue check mark that you paid for. You're hoping to get a check from Elon, your aggregators. Like we've heard this from inside the own 49ers community. So it felt a little, I don't know, salty. And Pelissero kept bringing it up. It's 6/16. He's still not traded. Okay. So that comes out. And then later that evening, Matt Mayoko reports Pittsburgh and Washington are out. And now Cleveland and New England have trade framework. That's the best way we can put it. And essentially, it's up to Brandon Aiyuk, and it goes back to the ball is in his court type thing, where you have the Browns, you have the Patriots. They may pay you more, but we have our offer. Take it or leave it. And that's what that kind of felt like to me when I read that. It was more the 49ers putting Aiyuk in a spot where this is our offer. We're not moving. You want to go play in New England? Here's your chance. You want to go play in Cleveland? Here's your chance. Now it's a stare off at that point, right?
I think the Niners are taking a huge gamble here. And I think the gamble they're taking is we don't think you really want to go. Because every time you've done something that kind of makes it seem like you want to go, you've immediately dialed it back, right? He goes on the Pivot podcast and talks about how great it would be to play in Washington, about how he's thought about playing on other teams where he'd be the number one option. Then TMZ finds him in the airport the next day and he's like, nah, for sure, I'll be back with the Niners. He doesn't show up to the voluntary stuff. Training camp comes around. He does show up. He doesn't practice, but he does show up, and he's going to meetings. Leonard Hankerson said yesterday, it's been great having him in meetings. He's so engaged, blah, blah, blah. Every time he does something that makes you think he wants out, he pulls it back. And I think the Niners say, you know what? We don't think you really want to go. So great. Here's a couple of teams with crappy quarterbacks and crappy offenses that might be willing to pay you. You want to go there? There's the door. But we don't think you do. So when we give you the option, and once again, you say no, we'll see you when the season starts, PA.
Yes. So Adam Schefter comes out today and says that there are two things that are important to note of any trade. The trade has to be up to the 49ers standard. By the way, no disrespect, Kendrick Bourne, but I don't want you back.
No.
And Brandon Aiyuk has to want to go there. And Adam Schefter says something the day before about Brandon Aiyuk's already said no to these places. So now the funny part is the Cleveland Browns aren't a bad team. The Cleveland Browns are a run first team. Amari Cooper had just as many catches around where Brandon Aiyuk did in a run first offense. And they won 11 games with 3 different quarterbacks because they have a great defense and Stefanski's a pretty good coach. But you would literally be in the same exact sort of situation where, yes, you're technically the wide receiver 1, but you're not going to see an increase in targets. Do you know that Deshaun Watson is going to be – Deshaun Watson doesn't even have to be the guy from Houston. Deshaun Watson has to be league average, and he hasn't even been that in Cleveland. Like, that's what the Browns want. They want him to be league average at this point because they've been getting – he's ranked in some metrics 36th in the NFL. 36th. So that's one. New England, I don't see how if New England offered the 34th overall pick during the NFL draft, the 49ers didn't take it right then. Because that's a high end to basically a 1. And you didn't take it then. So you'll take it now, knowing that they're going to be higher up. The Browns pick is going to be much lower. Now, if the New England Patriots said, we're going to give you a 1, they're going to be competing for the number 1 pick next season. I don't know how you say no to that one, Rob. But I don't think that they're going to do that because that's very, very dumb.
If you were going to trade for a veteran wide receiver and picks, you should have done it before the 2024 NFL draft. Doing it now. I mean, if you get Amari Cooper back, that's not bad because he can do a lot of the same things that you can do. You can live with that, right? But even that, you're basically staying the same, and then you get an extra draft pick next year. Like, you didn't really make yourself any better. So whereas if you got a bunch of draft picks before the 2024 draft, maybe you could have made yourself better by strengthening something else. So that whole thing is very weird if it ends up happening. And I still think he's gonna get traded, but I think the Niners are really they're gonna force him to declare once and for all whether he's willing to go full villain. He was. Debo was. Aiyuk, I don't think has, but I think to this point he hasn't anyway. Let's read this super chat real quick. Daza 0187. If the Niners extend Brandon Aiyuk last year, like the Dolphins with Waddle and the Eagles with Smith, they could have gotten him for 23 to 25, and none of this would be happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. But, I think the 49ers didn't expect this market to boom. Those are the two guys I think that really kind of set this market on its head a little bit. Because when you look at their production, both of those guys, Aiyuk is very comparable in terms of catches and yards and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, that probably would have been the best move. But I don't think the 49ers were betting on the Dolphins and Philadelphia being proactive, because that Devonta Smith deal is going to look like a steal in a year or two. So I think, again, there's a little bit of miscalculation on their part, but I don't know that anybody would have expected both those guys to get, a deal before they were ready. So a little bit fast forward to Mike Garafolo kind of clarifying that it's more likely for him to be traded than extended. But again, nothing's on the table. So there was no trade in place. So that's kind of where we left it, right? So we wake up this morning and Adam Schefter says that Pittsburgh's not in it, that he doesn't believe he doesn't believe that they're in it, right? And then we just get a report a few moments ago from Tom Pelissero on the Rich Eisen show saying that there's more teams in the mix besides the two mentioned. And Ian Rappaport confirmed and said the Steelers' name. All this to say, Rob, I'm tired. I have no idea what's going on. I don't have any idea. And I don't have any good grip on what's going on. And when people ask me, what do you think is going on? I have no idea. I literally have no idea.
A couple of things I think are interesting. First of all, Matt Mayoko comes out with that report a couple days ago. It's like, hey, Cleveland, maybe. The ball's in Aiyuk's court. Then the next day, he comes out with a firm report that mentions Cleveland again and specifically has people, like a proposed deal in the thing. Amari Cooper, second-round pick. So clearly, like, Mayoko was getting that directly from the 49ers. He puts it out there. Josina Anderson said that the trade with the Patriots is the one that they've had on the table forever. Like, this isn't like a new thing. So I think when people saw that, some people said this is just a way for them to try to get more out of the Steelers, because in the Mayoko article, it said the Steelers are interested, but they haven't met the 49ers asking price. So I almost wonder if maybe the Niners gave that to Mayoko, who, again, by the way, when's the last time a 49ers beat reporter broke anything? So I think the Niners gave it to Mayoko as a leverage play on the Steelers, because that's where Aiyuk wants to go. He would approve a contract there. He would approve the trade. The problem is the 49ers don't like what Pittsburgh's offering, because Pittsburgh knows Aiyuk, this is where he wants to play. So the Niners are trying to squeeze more juice out of that orange.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely spot on. Is you saying that we have a trade framework in place with Cleveland and New England is supposed to spook Pittsburgh into doing a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you want Brandon Aiyuk, I'll take TJ Watt, George Pickens, a first-round pick, and Mike Tomlin. And I think we can call it even. I think that's a fair trade, Rob. I think that's a really fair trade. I think that's something that I think is an absolute steal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this is absolutely what they're trying to do here. Is they know for a fact that he doesn't want Cleveland or New England. And if he doesn't blink and Pittsburgh doesn't blink, then it's come back to the table, either take the offer or play on the 5th, and we'll do this all over again next year if you want. And I think that's always been, I think that's what's pushing this, because we've heard the timeline of 48 hours, a resolution, 48 hours where they want this done one way or another. They want him to declare that he wants a trade and go somewhere, or say, I'm playing on the 5th. Right? They want it done. That's what they want. So when you hear resolution doesn't mean extension or trade. It just means anything at this point.
The expression is shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
I think that's really what the 49ers are hoping for. Warlock, thank you very much for the super chat. 49ers in stats. Brandon Aiyuk, you're not that good and you don't deserve $30 million a year. Steelers, hey, we'll offer you a pack of gum and $3. Reaction, that's not good enough. Brandon Aiyuk is worth more. He's a number one wide receiver and worth more. Shaking my head. That's the frustrating thing that a lot of people think the 49ers are doing.
Oh, yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they are. You can't trade for Brandon Aiyuk. He's wide receiver 1.
Okay,
Brandon Aiyuk comes in. I'm a wide receiver 1. Well, I don't know if we can pay you. Like, are you? It's valuing Brandon Aiyuk as a wide receiver 1 and forcing teams to throw up the hall, but telling Brandon Aiyuk in negotiations, you're not a wide receiver 1 that we feel like we can throw $30 million. This is exactly what's going on. The 49ers want him at their price.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They're not moving off of this. And I am not going to blame John Lynch about this. You know who it is? It's not him. It's Parag and York. It's them. They have their money that they have outlined. I'm sure if John Lynch had gotten the go-ahead to give a little bit more, to give whatever it is, John would. So I'm not going to blame Lynch here because I see too much of that. This is Parag and Jed York. This is their number crunching. This is everything that has to do with that. It's not John Lynch. So I don't want to hear that.
Tim Kawakami tweeted yesterday, holding the line on the Aiyuk deal, assuming he's asking generally for market price and not a crazy total, isn't really just about the cap for the Niners. It's likely largely about the total of guaranteed dollars that Jed York is willing to commit to this roster. That's Tim telling you Jed doesn't want to pay over a certain amount. He's telling you ownership is not giving them the go-ahead for this one. And he's given the go-ahead for a lot of them. Maybe this is where Jed is drawing the line. As I tweeted in response to this yesterday, it's typical Jed York ownership, rearing its ugly head again. Jed York has done one thing right as controlling owner of the 49ers, and that was hire Kyle Shanahan. Other than that, they've been cheap. They have not been good owners. He's been a source for national insiders forever. Jed York was the friggin' leak, came from the top. When Harbaugh was there, Jed York was leaking to the national guys that the players hated Jim Harbaugh. It was Jed, among others. And I think this is Jed York is not blame-free on this one.
The thing is there's plenty of factors in this. There's plenty of blame to go around. But this one time is when they're taking this hard stance on this is the amount, right? And if you think back to George Kittle's situation in which he said the first offer was so insulting that he called it the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, right? So the 49ers start at a spot usually in negotiations where it can get contentious because it's like, how dare you even say this is what's going on? So look, Rob, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on right now, but I do think that if we're talking, the leak is Willie Snead. I do think that if we're talking about right now, what it is either he chooses to take one of these trades, or Pittsburgh ponies up, or he ends up back.
He's not going to take one of the trades to Cleveland or New England. He would have taken it. So. If he wanted to go by now, he'd be gone. New England's offer has been on the table forever. They certainly have had enough time to work out a new deal with Cleveland. Like, if he wanted to go to either one of those places, he would be gone. And that's why I don't think he does. I think they're trying to get more out of Pittsburgh. You know, now Pelissero is leaking, oh, there's another team in the mix. Yeah, okay. Sounds like a tip from Aiyuk's agent that he wants thrown out there to make it seem like there's more going on to try to bully the 49ers. I saw this tweet from Mike Silver, which infuriated me. Mike Silver said, rethinking the Aiyuk decision to hold in rather than stay away. He hadn't gotten an offer or any other engagement from the 49ers since May. He requested a trade. Other teams wanted to pay him. By showing up, as he had in past off seasons, but not participating, he clearly bothered Kyle Shanahan in a manner that made a trade more plausible, especially when juxtaposed against Debo's hyper-intense approach. So far, Aiyuk hasn't agreed to join either of the teams with whom the Niners would do deals. However, he has achieved movement. In retrospect, holding in may have been the right play. So first of all, we're saying that Kyle got his panties in a bunch because Aiyuk decided to hold in instead of hold out. And that's why the 49ers are suddenly willing to trade Brandon Aiyuk, because Kyle Shanahan didn't like that. And by the way, Mike Silver, directly to you, because you've done it multiple times, and I've called you out on it every time. Stop throwing flowers at Deebo Samuel's feet because he's actually doing his job. It's his job to show up to mandatory camp. It's his job to show up in shape. That's what the money is for. So stop acting like Deebo Samuel is this uber professional when half of his years he's been in the league, he's been unreliable and out of shape. Like, what are we doing here? Did we forget that Deebo Samuel is a different guy every other year? Did we forget that? Did we forget that Deebo Samuel was hurt in 2 out of the 3 playoff games the Niners played this year? Stop throwing flowers at Deebo Samuel's feet. He needs to be professional all the time. Where was this effort all those other years? Deebo's in a contract year, essentially. He knows that. So stop with this whole Deebo Samuel's ultra professional and Brandon Aiyuk is a big immature baby, as you said. Just stop. It's not reality, man. It's not.
I think that's my biggest issue with that is the mature thing, right? And it's convenient amnesia in terms of what Deebo Samuel did during his time looking for a deal to say that now, oh, it's so mature of him. He's got his deal. He's got his money. I just don't like right. And I just don't like that being thrown at Brandon Aiyuk when the antics are similar, right? We've got videos of Deebo Samuel in the club like this, not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
The same stuff, wiping the social media, which again, this is everybody does this. It's not just, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk. It's literally how this works now.
Yep.
I just don't like the kind of smearing. If this is the end, if Brandon Aiyuk has played his last down as a 49er, the smearing out of the door, that's the part that I really can't jive with. And, again, like with me, I think that everybody knew that Deebo was going to come into camp in the best shape of his life because he's essentially in a contract year, right? Like he possibly could be playing for someone else. I don't know how likely that would be if Brandon Aiyuk is not here. But I think going into it, the conventional wisdom was, well, they'll sign Aiyuk and then they'll move to Deebo Samuel. So this was the easiest thing to see. Do we got a clip here from Rappaport?
Grant just retweeted this from Rap Sheet. I'll see what it says.
Yeah, my understanding is there are active trade discussions between the San Francisco 49ers and several teams here. And we have documented, and Mike and Tom have done a great job of it over the last couple hours about detailing where they are. My understanding is the Pittsburgh Steelers have had discussions with the 49ers about potentially trading Brandon Aiyuk. They are for sure in it right now. They are one of several teams that the 49ers are speaking with. The Cleveland Browns are one of those teams. The New England Patriots are one of those teams. And there are a couple different parts to this trade. There is, can the 49ers agree to terms?
Yes. Blah, 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 blah. All right. We get the general hint. We know there's 3 sides that have to be satisfied. Aiyuk, the Niners, and the other team. It's not that complicated, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, the Niners have to like the compensation. Then they go to Aiyuk. Aiyuk has to like the deal. So this is all moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that situations are fluid, but this situation seems to be more fluid than any situation ever in terms of day to day, in terms of hour to hour. 4 hours ago, yesterday, 4 hours, no deals in place. 2 deals are in place. Pittsburgh's out. Pittsburgh's back. This is all like moving. This is all up and down like a wave. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this play out. And possibly because, obviously we cover the 49ers. We've never seen it happen with the 49ers. But is there another situation that has played out this publicly and up and down in recent memory?
It is wild, the twists and turns. I think part of it is like nothing else is going on, right? like nothing's happening with the Cowboys and Dak and Micah. So like I think that would be a focus, but since it's just totally dead there, like Debo's the one that's making noise. Or Aiyuk's the one that's making noise. He said on the pivot, I like this. I like being in the new. I like guys talking about me when they talk about the 49ers. So I think he likes that part of it too. You would think the other part too that I just thought of, if he wanted to change teams, you would think he would want to do it now because he doesn't have that much time to learn the system, right?
Mhm.
Preseason starts. We got a full week of preseason football this weekend. So you would think he would want to get all that done. That's why I really think the Niners are going to, I think the Niners say, we don't think you want to leave. And if you wanted to leave, you would have gone already. And the fact that you haven't means, hey, I mean, there's a reason the 49ers haven't made an offer to him since May. Since May. They haven't even tried to bring this to an end since May because they don't think they need to do anything else to bring it to an end.
The funniest part is I want to ask Brandon Aiyuk, and I'd love to ask him, but obviously we'll never get this chance. But you want Pittsburgh. I understand. Mike Tomlin's a former wide receiver. He's a great coach. You know, put your arms around him. Who's the offensive coordinator there? Arthur Smith. So you want to go over there, and the quarterback is the corpse of Russell Wilson. Justin Fields, who's a reclamation project, right? One of those guys is going to start.
Mm-hmm.
And a offensive coordinator whose philosophy is, let's not put the ball in our best players' hands ever. And if anybody's watched the Atlanta Falcons last season, Kyle Pitts doesn't get the ball. Drake London doesn't get the ball. Bijan Robinson doesn't get the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was Mac Hollins who got the ball. It was Jonnu Smith who got the ball. It was Tyler Algier who got the ball.
Hey, I'm a Bijan Robinson fantasy football owner. Okay, I'm very aware.
Yeah, so you look, this is going to boil down to this. What is more important to you? Getting paid or really, really competing? And the 49ers are probably $3-4 million off annual average salary that whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur Smith was the head coach and he ran the offense. So essentially like Kyle, like there's no offensive coordinator in Atlanta. It was really him. Like that's his system. It's the same stuff that he ran in Tennessee. But do you want the extra $4 million to go somewhere so you can get that money? But Pittsburgh isn't a Brandon Aiyuk away from making a Super Bowl run. I'm sorry.
Close.
Yeah. Cleveland. Yeah. Michael, thanks for the donation. Watching the Falcons offense last year was like trying to pass a kidney stone. Yeah. I mean,
I passed the kidney stone. It was pretty much equally as painful.
Hey, Bijan Robinson's pretty good. Yeah. No, thank you, man.
I really like this Algiers guy. Let's go with him.
You know what? It'll throw them off the scent. We have Kyle Pitts. Let's throw it to Jonnu Smith, man. Like the man is like big braining all this stuff. So look, it's all going to boil down to if he wanted to get paid, I believe that he would have already taken the New England or Cleveland deal because they're probably offering him exactly what he wants. I think there is a little piece of him that says, yeah, I do want to chase a chip. I do want to, but I also do want to be paid. So it's all going to boil down to, here's your options. Pick one, don't pick one, or just come back to us. And it's the funniest part is we've talked for 28 minutes and we've gone around in circles about what's going to happen. And these were always the likeliest scenarios. Like we're no step closer to understanding what is actually going to happen. And it's one of the likeliest scenarios, which is only like 3 of them. So it's gonna boil down to like, does he want to win?
I think it's funny. Lombardi just quote tweeted the insiders talking about this, and he said, Pittsburgh makes a comeback, suggests they've been willing to increase their compensation offer to the 49ers, who can sort through at least 3 different bids on this. So Lombardi's already starting the genius 49ers have nailed the Brandon Aiyuk talks, and they got Pittsburgh to pony up when they didn't want to. He's already starting that side of it. I almost wonder if the Kendrick Bourne thing was thrown in there just so when they don't take that deal, people are like, well, at least they didn't take Kendrick Bourne coming off a torn ACL in October.
Kendrick Bourne, Matt Breida, Trent Taylor. What's Marquise Goodwin up to?
Right. Grant tweeted out today, no sign of Jalen Hurd at practice.
That's so rude.
It
Oh,
does
boy.
feel like that. Like, what are we like? What we're just going to bring all these old people back? Like, I'm sorry. 49ers roster has progressed beyond a point where Kendrick Bourne should even be considered for anything. The idea that he would be the veteran player you get back in a compensation package for Aiyuk is comical.
Yeah. Now, obviously, 49ers fans are keeping an eye on everyone else. So if the Patriots are involved, what about Matthew Judon, an edge rusher who could possibly help the 49ers today? Well, that would be really cool if the 49ers didn't already invest in Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Malik Collins, right? Like to fill in for everybody else. Now, Judon wants to be paid. Kendrick Bourne is still on PUP coming off the ACL injury, and it would be a second. And that's a high second. That makes me feel better, but I still don't feel great about that return either.
You're sacrificing one guy that wants money for another guy that wants money in Judon.
And Judon is in his 30s.
Right.
And you already signed Leonard Floyd. Hey, Trey Sermon's the backup in Indianapolis. Respect him.
KJ says Tom Sewell is coming back to coach.
Yeah, I mean, we should just start bringing the whole band back together, man. What's Garrett Selleck up to?
Hey, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be cut by the Rams. They could bring him back.
You just had to, right? Like you couldn't let it slide.
Hey, we're talking about former 49ers coming back. I'm just throwing it out there.
My goodness.
Kyle's supposed to talk today.
That is going to be electric. That is absolutely going to be electric. I have never been more, maybe after the trade up to 3. I think that was the press conference that I was more dialed into. But I am absolutely dialed into this press conference. It's going to be so interesting because he is going to get questions and he's not going to be happy because he never is.
Not mustache.
Can't wait.
Right.
No, yeah. Oh, well, if we get a mustache question today.
The first 7 questions of this press conference, regardless of if Kyle Shanahan addresses it out of the gate or not, the first 7 questions need to be about Brandon Aiyuk. At least. Hey, first question, Kyle, why haven't you made a new offer to Brandon Aiyuk since May? That should be the first question. How are you sitting? John Lynch is sitting here telling us he's trying to get it done. You haven't made a new offer since May. So how is that trying to get it done? That should be question 1. Question 2 should be, has Brandon Aiyuk turned down deals to other teams? Has he rejected the Browns offer? Has he rejected, deals to other teams? Question 3, are you waiting for Brandon Aiyuk to just give in and come back? Question 4, did Brandon Aiyuk not participating in practice piss you off? Like Mike Silver says, if he's going to throw that out there, then he should be asked about that. Question 5, why is it that Deebo Samuel can pull all sorts of crap and never end up in the doghouse, yet Brandon Aiyuk pulls the same stuff? He's in the doghouse.
Man, Rob, you would ask those questions, man. You know what he's going to say?
I don't care. I'm so tired of people just waving away this stuff because they think they know what Kyle Shanahan's going to say. Make him say it. How about that? Like, what's so terrible about that? Ask him these questions. These aren't hard questions. These are questions based on fact, questions that he should be able to answer. I don't give a crap about, well, how's D Winters look? Who cares? Who cares? Oh, by the way, Kyle, Trent Williams, what the hell's going on with that? Have you made him a contract offer since May? What's going on with Trent Williams? Like, what are we doing here? Stop asking these stupid, sappy questions about, oh, Brock Purdy, year 3, how's he look? He's building up chemistry. No, this team has real issues right now.
Man. Well, the thing is if you ask him about the contracts, he's going to say, well, I try to stay out of the specifics of that. I think Brandon and we have a good relationship. And I think, again, all that stuff we want to make sure we keep out of the public eye. That's what he'll say to one.
Great. Kyle, don't you think it's time that maybe you do have to get involved now? You haven't made an offer since May. Nothing has happened. Maybe you should step in, don't you think?
Well, and then he'll say, well, again, I have a lot going on with this team right now. We're trying to focus on the guys that are here right now. Brandon's been in every single meeting, and we feel really good about where we are right now. And I think everything is moving in a healthy. Like, these are the types of answers he's going. He's not going to divulge anything. And
asking him
and
until
and the more you're pushing, he'll just start getting more snarky.
that's fine. Great. Let him get snarky. Hey, Kyle, you haven't gotten involved. You got involved with Trent Williams, and that got done. If you really wanted Brandon Aiyuk here, wouldn't you get involved? Why are you leaving this to other people? You're the general manager anyway, Kyle, and we all freaking know it. So why haven't you stepped in? I think these are all fair questions, all based on things that Kyle has done or said in the past. I'm not like coming up with stuff out of thin air. This is all based in reality here. Like, what other questions are you going to, if you're going to say, well, we know what he's going to say to those, what else are you asking about? Who cares about anything else?
And funny enough, I think he speaks in 10 minutes, actually. So this might be, so you know what? I say let's get this done, this show right now. Let's get it done before we get out there, right? So I guess we can, look, we've talked about the Brandon Aiyuk thing. I don't know. That's all I have to say. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on at this point. Again, it seems like, again, to put a bow on this, it seems like the 49ers are floating out Cleveland and New England to get Pittsburgh to up their offer. It sounds like Pittsburgh's back in. If the 49ers get what they want from Pittsburgh, whatever that is, I don't know what they're asking for. TJ Watt, terrible towels. I don't know what they're asking for. If they get what they like, and Pittsburgh's ready to pony up the money, then I can see this happening, sooner than later. But until then, the 49ers are not going to budge off of their asking price, even if that asking price isn't what you're telling that player behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either that, or they're just going to wind up coming back to a 5th-year option, or they're going to wind up, taking the extension that's on the deal. So, this is just, again, we have all of these reports, and yet we still have nothing. Like, nothing. It's all the same stuff that we've been talking about. So, and training camp is actually happening. So Jacob Cowan back on the field today. That's good news. Ricky Pearsall starting to come back a little bit more. That's fine. Matt Breida's back, as we alluded to, but Elijah Mitchell is missing again today. And Garendo's working off on the side. So I wonder how much of the Breida signing is because Elijah Mitchell is a little bit more banged up. D. Winters is actually running with the ones at Sam linebacker. That is something that's really cool. I think it was John Chapman that was reporting that first. That's cool. Today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Renardo Green was playing outside. Demo Lenore was playing inside. So that's a little bit of a change because Isaac Yiadom had a not, I don't want to say a grasp on it, but it seemed like he was moving in the right direction. And let's see, what else? Oh, offensive line. This is really big. Offensive line. Dominic Pooney, right guard, Rob Stats Guerrera. I heard rookies don't play, but they did it with Spencer Burford, and it sounds like right now he's doing pretty good, and he's got himself a leg up while everybody else is trying to catch up between Feliciano and Burford.
All it took was an injury to the 2 guards ahead of him on the depth chart, and all of a sudden they got to look at him. It turns out he might actually be able to play. It's funny. You're throwing all this stuff out there, and it's like, I get it, but like, until this Trent and Aiyuk situation gets resolved, I have a hard time caring as much about this stuff, and it's all legitimate. Everything you mentioned. I mean, Isaac Yiadom, maybe, who knows how serious that injury is. Elijah Mitchell is always hurt. Hell, the 49ers are working out punters. What the hell happened to Mitch Wishnowski?
Oh, man. I love that one. I love that idea. Hey, I mean, wasting picks on kickers. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
All the reports are really good. Like you mentioned, Renardo Green, good. D. Winters, good. Ricky Pearsall, I've heard good and bad with him, actually.
Sounds like they're sheltering him just a little bit. They're just keeping him away from everything.
Yeah. Jordan Mason. I mean, Bobby Turner said yesterday he grew up. He's a professional player now. Like a lot of the other reports besides this stuff, which is why it's so frustrating, right? If they had this contract stuff resolved, we'd be in full hype mode for 2024 with all this good news coming out of camp.
And we thought, hey, we got the quarterback locked in. This should be easy. Here we are. Here we are right now. And real quick, I guess, because we definitely want to make sure that we get everybody out of here so you guys can go check out Kyle's press conference.
Oh, I'm not. Hold on. Well, you may leave. I'm sticking around when Kyle's on.
You're going to we're just going to watch it together like a family?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep going. I'm not closing down shop. Are you kidding me?
Oh, all right. I'll stick around too then. Let's kill some time. All right.
Yeah.
So the Trent Williams thing, Adam Schefter talked about it in passing yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, and he said he feels like he's way more optimistic about that, considering, because even at his age, his play has been able to dictate whatever. And the 49ers are not going to let him leave. So I think that's why we're not hearing anything about that, because I do ultimately think we all believe that there's no way that he is going to not be the left tackle. So I don't, that one, that's why I guess I don't have as much to say about it, because there's just no possible outcome that Trent Williams is not going to be the left tackle for the 49ers.
Yes, I hear you. And I thought the same thing, but like, why isn't it done by now then? John Lynch said they've been talking about this for a while. Again, why isn't it done? If you want to say Aiyuk, well, they have Pearsall, they have whatever, okay. But like, there's no alternative for Trent Williams. None. So why isn't this done? I'm sure his agent has let them know what he wants. We all agree the 49ers are up against it with him. They don't really have any other option. So what are we waiting for? Why isn't this damn thing done?
Aaron Rodriguez says, breaking news, Steelers now offered 4 terrible towels instead of 2 for Brandon. Listen, the Steelers are coming to the plate now. Like, this is it. You know, another thing that's funny, and this is me pivoting back to the Brandon Aiyuk thing. I don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers can be tricked into budging off of what they want to give up.
Right.
Right? Like, do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers got here by going crazy and making crazy trades and things like that, in terms of, I mean, obviously they're a team that perennial makes the playoffs every single year under Mike Tomlin. But you think that these sort of tactics in the media of, oh, they've got trade packages, you know, set for 2 teams, that it's going to say, oh my God, Omar Khan's going to be like, oh my God, push the button. Like, yes, you can keep talking, but you think that that's going to make them just do something drastic? That is the part that I kind of struggle with a little bit.
Right, because if we're sitting here able to say, boy, this really looks like an offer, they're trying to squeeze Pittsburgh, Omar Khan can do that too. Like,
yes.
He knows, he's been around. He knows how the league works. I'm certain. So if I'm him, I'm like, they don't have anything from anybody else. We're not doing it. We're going to stand firm. If they're this desperate to try and get us to increase it, they got nothing. Or they'll take what we have.
And what's funny is I don't really think that the relationship has gotten so contentious that the 49ers are desperate to move away from Brandon Aiyuk. I think what this is a put up or shut up moment. This is what they mean by ball is in your court. Like, here are your options. Here's where you can go. Here's what you could possibly make. Now make a decision. We're not moving off our number. You tell us what's more important, and they'll move accordingly. I think that sort of move, and if Brandon Aiyuk's not here, it obviously doesn't make the 49ers better today. I mean, depending on who they get back. They're just not better today. Like, I'm not going to sit here and argue that. You put a lot of pressure on Ricky Pearsall to immediately contribute. You know, you have to start looking around at Juwan Jennings playing a lot more. And there's already been so many complaints about separators, right? Like, where was the separation? Now you're knocking all that down. This drastically brings down your chances of competing again for a Super Bowl. And I think it was, what's the guy from NFL Network? He said, I have a tough time seeing the 49ers doing this because it doesn't put you in position to compete for a Super Bowl, and the 49ers aren't dumb.
Yeah, Greg Rosenthal said it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that line from The Office with Dwight Schrute. It's like, before I do something, I think, would an idiot do this? And if the answer is yes, I do not do that thing. And
it's funny because that's what I'm trying to get at is I don't think the relationship has grown contentious in terms of, oh, we believe Aiyuk's being a cancer, or this has gotten to a point where the relationship is irreparable. I think this is a bit of a power move, almost like, here it is. Like, this is your options, and we want this done soon. So let us know how you want to move. And I think that's more what this is than it is just Aiyuk being a malcontent or somebody who's going to be disruptive. Because I don't think it's that. I think it's the 49ers are tired. They've got their number. They're not moving off that number. And they want to see how desperate you are to get paid if you want to go play with Jacoby Brissett in New England where it's cold and you're going to lose just about every single game. Or you can go to Cleveland where it's nothing but factories, like Joakim Noah said, and you're going to be in a run-first offense where you'll see similar targets like Amari Cooper, who had a phenomenal season last year, by the way. So it boils down to, if you wanted money, you would have already accepted one of these deals. You just don't want to go play in Cleveland or New England, because who would?
I root for the Seattle Mariners. And Ichiro, who used to play for the Mariners, once said this about Cleveland. Quote, to tell the truth, I'm not excited to go to Cleveland, but we have to. If I ever saw myself saying I'm excited going to Cleveland, I'd punch myself in the face because I'd be lying.
That's a good one.
Throwing
and
that
Joakim Noah, what is it? I never heard anybody ever say they want to go visit Cleveland. You know, like he goes on vacation. He goes like, you think Cleveland's cool? So, and pull up Callie's thing again. So it comes back to this. BA wants the Steelers. The 49ers know that Brandon Aiyuk wants the Steelers. The 49ers have to be happy with what the Steelers are offering. And until they do, they don't have any incentive to send him somewhere that he wants to go. Essentially, Cleveland and New England, and Cleveland is a good team. They won 11 games last year, Rob. Come on. Like they're a good football team. They're a good football team. They just need average quarterback play, and Deshaun Watson has been not even close to that. But they still have a good running game. Stefanski runs a very good offense. It's a Kubiak offense. They have offensive linemen. Hello, DeJuan Jones and other guys. And their defense is great. But playing in Cleveland is the equivalent of football Siberia. That's it. It's not that the Cleveland Browns are terrible. It's that you being sent to Cleveland is like in Loki being sent to the void.
Let me ask you this. Are the Browns the favorite to win the AFC North?
No, because the whole division is stacked. It could be any of those guys.
Are they the second favorite? I would say no. Are they the third favorite? Maybe.
This is because Deshaun Watson can't even be an average quarterback. Again,
starting quarterback this year
for Cleveland, Deshaun Watson.
So there you go. Enjoy it, BA. Have fun.
The thing is, they're not getting Deshaun Watson from Houston back at any time. That's not happening. Like, it's not happening. They can win games if Deshaun Watson is even average. I told you some of the metrics, he's 36th. He's behind backups in how bad he's been. So in that regard, and then with the way that offense is constructed, he will be the number one. It'll be him. It'll be Jerry Jeudy. It'll be Elijah Moore. And he'll get a similar amount of targets. He just will. Like, that's the Stefanski is not going to get away from running the football. And if Nick Chubb shows up eventually, they're going to run the football even more. Even though they have, Jerome Ford and they have Deontay Foreman, who are the guys that are probably, and Pierre Strong. Those are the guys that are going to probably be, taking care of the little while Chubb is gone. But Cleveland has a good defense. They've won games. Stefanski has shown that they can win games. But the production doesn't change because your role in that offense is so similar to what it is in San Francisco.
So that's a fair question to ask. If your role stays the same, would you rather stay in San Francisco and take a little less money, or would you rather take the money and have because I do think the role is part of it. I think that he wants to be a number one. He's talked about wanting to be a number one. He's talked about dreaming about what it would be like if he was in another place and was the number one. We've talked about all of that. So maybe I don't know if he hasn't thought about it yet. Matt Mayoko said he thought that Aiyuk made the trade request without really thinking it through because he didn't really want to get traded. He just wanted to put more pressure on the Niners. Maybe now he's at a point where he is thinking it through. I don't know. I saw this from KNBR. This was Aiyuk on KNBR, or this is, Mayoko on KNBR.
Incredible, like the amount of information that has come out that I was able to report last night about just where things stand. And I think it's black and white right now. It's, the 49ers have 2 trade proposals that they've agreed to. There's 2 teams that Brandon Aiyuk wanted to go to, but neither of those teams have provided the 49ers with the kind of trade compensation that they want. And meanwhile, at least 3 of the 4 teams, I don't know exactly what Washington, I don't know that they ever came through with an offer. So they're completely out of it from what I understand. But the other 3 teams basically have their deals that have been presented to Aiyuk. So, Pittsburgh has their deal. However, they can't work out the compensation with the 49ers. So they're kind of effectively out. That's the way I worded it. And then the other 2 teams, I mean, things are buttoned up. Things are ready to roll when and if Brandon Aiyuk gives it the green light. So he has the 49ers have trades in place, the frameworks of trades in place with New England and with Cleveland. And then Aiyuk and his representation have basically contract proposals in hand from both of those teams. And now the ball is squarely in Brandon Aiyuk's court to determine which one of those 2 or neither of those 2 that he ultimately decides that he wants to accept. Just to reiterate, the ball right now is solidly in Aiyuk's court. He can either choose the Patriots, he can choose the Browns, or he can choose nothing and just see what develops with him and the 49ers.
So we got an Adam Schefter tweet. Adam Schefter says, the Steelers and 49ers re-engaged in conversations midday today regarding Brandon Aiyuk per league sources. As of Monday night, the 49ers Steelers talk stalled, but there have been further conversations today in an ever-fluid situation that still involves other teams as well.
When did he tweet that? I don't see that.
2 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, there it is right at the top of the screen.
So, yeah, again, obviously what that was, talking about the framework of trades, is to get the Steelers back to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the 49ers know he wants to go there. Again, why would we send you somewhere you want to go? Let's make the Steelers up this offer. Let's get as much as we can. Let's get greedy, is basically what the 49ers are saying right now. Let's get greedy. Let's see if we can push the Steelers into doing something drastic. Because I don't want James Daniel and a second. I don't want that.
No,
So,
that sucks.
That's a terrible deal. And they're not going to trade you George Pickens because they want George Pickens and Aiyuk in tandem.
Right.
The idea that you're going to trade Pickens for Aiyuk is a net zero move for them. We're not taking Daniels and a second. Sorry. That's not a good enough deal. So it's up to you. And Omar Khan's not going to panic. Omar Khan's not just going to go crazy and just say, oh my God, we got to throw a whole bunch of other things in here now. All of a sudden, well, we got to give him a first and he's not going to panic. Now, you're not going to trade any of the guys that you just drafted. So I've seen people, Fortanu, Frazier. Yeah. In what world would the Pittsburgh Steelers trade these young guys that they just drafted? I would take Alex Highsmith in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not trading him. Herbig, right? These are the things I think the 49ers are trying to see if the Steelers go out on a limb and do, but I just don't think they would.
Fans do this all the time when you talk about trade talks. Take our garbage and give us your gold. That's what everybody wants to do. That's just not how it works. And the Steelers know they have no competition. They're negotiating against themselves right now because he's not going to Cleveland. He's not going to New England. They could say there's other teams in the mix. Yeah, right. Let's see them. And if I were Pittsburgh, I'd say, come back when you've got an offer from somebody that's not one of those teams, and then maybe we'll up it. Until then, this is our offer. It ain't changing. Take it or leave it. And good luck with a guy that doesn't want to play for you. That's what I would say if I was Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly. And why would moves like this, right? Because even if you keep Highsmith and all of them and you bring your Brandon Aiyuk, that doesn't push the Steelers into the conversation of being a Super Bowl contender. They're not a Brandon Aiyuk away. So if you give up those studs on defense for Brandon Aiyuk, I would say you made your team worse.
Right. Then they're not in the business of doing that, 2 days before the preseason starts. So, yeah, I don't know why Pittsburgh would increase anything.
Yeah. We still don't have Kyle at the podium yet, right? I don't know if you're keeping an eye on it.
Oh, I've been checking. And chat, please help us out here if you see anything. I don't believe that he's talking. I can't live stream it. I would love to live stream the press conference. We're not allowed to. Otherwise,
Also, we're gonna. So, I'm hearing the Steelers. Oh, you can have the wide receiver who has 1,300 yards, or you can trade it all for what's in the box.
Ooh, the box could be anything. It could be a receiver that had 1,300 yards. You know how long we wanted one of those.
We'll take the box. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? I bet nobody took the boat. Who can resist the call of the mystery box?
Dude,
So my bad. We're not gonna watch the.
We can't.
Yeah,
We're not allowed to live stream it. We just have to react to the quotes that come out, which I'm sure they will. Otherwise, I would love to live stream it. But yeah, I don't want to do that. I just think it's hilarious that Mayoko tweeted, "Oh, the Steelers are out," or he reported that, and then turns out Pretty Ricky and Cam Marino, so far they're looking pretty good right now, right?
Well, I mean, it could be true that they were out at that moment, but they came back to the table once the other stuff. Like that's the hard part with this whole source thing. Is everything is so fluid, and 1 minute you think you got it all right and you have all the information, and then something automatically just changes, right? So I think that's the part that's so hard about this. If you draw a line in the sand and you say, yes, this is going to get done with the Steelers, and then it comes out that they're not involved anymore, of course people are going to come looking at you crazy, but it doesn't mean that they won't get back involved. And the whole idea of leaking the fact that it was Washington and Cleveland and New England as the trade partners is to get Pittsburgh to come back. That was the whole idea. It was like, hey, come on back. Let's keep talking. Like just a little bit more. So that's the funny part about this is, yes, you can stand on business and say, yeah, this is what I've been hearing the entire time. But everything is so fluid that anything at any moment can just change everything. And the 49ers' intentions by having this come out about the two trade partners was to bring Pittsburgh back. Wasn't to drive them away.
It's interesting that all this is coming out just as Kyle Shanahan is supposed to speak. I'm sure maybe if it's close, so the 49ers are wondering, like, let's just wait until it's done one way or the other. Because you would think, right, if a deal does get done, Kyle's going to have to speak again, right? Or Lynch, somebody will have to speak. So do you want to put Kyle in front of the media right now for him to say, well, nothing's going on, no updates, and then 10 minutes later he gets traded?
Yeah. And look, I think that there's a little bit of a timeline on this in which Brandon Aiyuk has to decide. I think 48 hours is pretty steady with what everybody's been kind of saying about choose your trade partner or just come back to the table and take the deal that we have for you, or just play on the fifth and we'll do this dance again next year. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. All this stuff is so confusing because, again, like Rob said, people are saying this, people are saying that. All of them are just one of the three possibilities that have been floated out there the entire time before this even became a situation this offseason.
I got to tell you, I think that the 49ers have butchered this thing. I think that they didn't want to trade him, so they didn't listen to offers before the draft. And now they're like, oh, no, we have to get trade offers because he didn't really come back. And now it just seems like Mayoko said it. This did not go the way the 49ers thought it would go. I think they thought that eventually they'd be able to do it with just like they did with Kittle and Trent and all that stuff. See, the difference is the 49ers upped their offer to those guys, and they haven't made a new offer to Aiyuk since May.
Mm-hmm. And that, again, that's why I don't blame John Lynch. I think John Lynch has been given a number, and he's had to be the messenger. Yeah. He's had to be the one that's had to tell him, hey, man, this is it. It's not him. It's the calculator. Parag, Jet. What are they trying to allocate? Kyle speaking now. So I guess we should get out of here and let everybody get to this, right, Rob?
No, I'm staying.
You're staying?
If you want to leave, feel free. I'm staying. I want to react to what it says.
But I can't hear it.
Well, we'll see the quotes on people will transcribe it on Twitter. What good does it do for me to watch the press conference and not have an audience to talk about it with? I'm not going to do another live show again in 10 minutes.
All right. Okay. I guess we should do that.
Follow up, 49ers beat writers. Please follow up questions for the love of God. Don't let them get off by just saying, oh, nothing new to report. Follow up on the facts of what we know right now then. Have you not? Oh, go ahead.
Nick Wagner says the corresponding move for the addition to Matt Breida is wide receiver Malik Turner heading to IR, not Elijah Mitchell, not Isaac Guerrero.
Aiyuk is in the building today as usual. Kyle Shanahan says there's still a scenario in which a deal gets done to keep him in San Francisco. That to me is, Kyle, again, that's a leverage play, right?
Riveting.
We could keep him.
Riveting. I mean, of course there's a possibility. Do we know how much the possibility is? Of course there is. And Matt Mayoko says, Coach Kyle Shanahan said Brandon Aiyuk is in the building and going through his normal hold-in routine during camp.
Kyle Posey tweeted, Aiyuk's agent was spotted for a brief period at 49ers headquarters today, according to a national reporter. Things might heat up soon. Shanahan was asked if he thinks it'll be resolved soon. Quote, no. Why would the building? That's interesting. Why would his agent be there?
Kyle Shanahan on the possibility of losing Brandon Aiyuk. This is from my buddy Nicholas McGee. It's hard to be better when you lose a great player.
And we know the 49ers don't like to just give guys away. I mean, they kept Jimmy Garoppolo because what did they say? Well, we just don't want to give away good players. And ultimately, the 49ers don't have to do anything. BA is under contract. There's nothing he could do about it. If the 49ers don't trade him, he either plays football for them or he plays football for no one.
Kyle Shanahan confirms Brandon Aiyuk has permission to speak to other teams, says it's been at this point for a while. Again, my buddy Nicholas McGee.
Yeah, because they gave him permission to do that before the draft.
Yeah. So
none of this is new. Like Shanahan says, the situation we're in right now with Brandon, nothing has changed.
And that I just want to go back to the resolution. Is it soon? And he's like, no. Because the 49ers, even though I said that this was kind of made like in a move of urgency, maybe to make somebody blink one way or another, whether that's Brandon Aiyuk or Pittsburgh to kind of pony up. I think they realize that until they get exactly what they want, like the 49ers are going to prioritize themselves. That's exactly what they've been doing this entire time. They've been prioritizing themselves, the organization's future, how much money they want to allocate. So they are going to prioritize everything that's better for them as opposed to the player, like every team does in any sort of negotiation.
Absolutely. And I don't blame either side for doing what's best for them. That's exactly how these things work. Like you can't get on any of that. That's just, again, that's how they work. And eventually it's going to have to get worked out. You know, it's interesting, Jay. How much run does Ricky Pearsall get in the preseason game this weekend? Right?
Has to be a lot. I have to see him a lot.
Does the playing time of some of their other guys give us any clue about what might happen with Brandon Aiyuk?
Well, I think regardless of what's going on with Aiyuk, I would like to see Pearsall regardless because I want to see how he reacts against NFL competition.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important because you can do what you do in college. And I think we all think the world of Ricky, but I need to see it against NFL players. So I think regardless, he was going to play. But if Aiyuk is on the way out, then his progress has to speed up exponentially and as fast as possible. David Lombardi says, Kyle Shanahan refuses to get into details of the Brandon Aiyuk situation, particularly contract offer and trade talk, though he did confirm Aiyuk has permission. He says the situation that we're at with Brandon, nothing has changed. Seems like a lot has changed.
Well, has your contract offer to him changed since May? What, can somebody please ask that question? And maybe they have, to be fair. I'm not watching it. I don't know. So
Christian McCaffrey has a calf strain. You won't see him this preseason. That's fine.
So apparently Christian McCaffrey was on NFL Network live on the air and called Aiyuk a former teammate and then corrected himself.
Oh, man.
Former teammate. Ooh.
It sounds like the 49ers media is away from asking anything about Brandon Aiyuk, and that's all we're going to get.
That's insane.
Because now they're on Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey, they're talking about the calf strain, so they've pivoted away from that. So, look, I understand, Rob, and this is what I was saying before. I understand because these are questions that need to be answered, but Kyle's not going to give any answer. And if you press him, he can still find a way to not give an answer. It's the DC dip and twirl. He's the again, it's word salads and nothing burgers. It's funny. Again,
there's no point in asking about anything else, though. I would keep asking. I would who cares about the other stuff? I would keep asking him, although apparently Ricky Pearsall re-aggravated a shoulder injury that he sustained earlier in camp. So that's
smooth.
Great. Maybe we won't see him this weekend.
Smooth. Goodness gracious. It's all well, Jacob Cowing was back today, so maybe the young man will get some run. Yeah. I mean, at this point,
McCaffrey won't participate in the preseason. He's out of practice a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I don't really have an issue with that. But maybe that's why. And Elijah Mitchell has a hamstring injury. I think that's why Matt Breida is here.
Mm-hmm.
You need bodies, and you need guys who are going to go.
I can't believe they were off the Brandon Aiyuk thing. I read.
That's it. All the quotes coming in. Jake Hutchinson, Ricky Pearsall re-aggravated a shoulder injury. He sustained. That's it. I think that's it. There's no more questions about Brandon Aiyuk. Again, Kyle wasn't going to say anything, but they got off that pretty quickly.
I never saw a press corps more afraid of a head coach. What do you think this press conference would have been like in Philly or New York?
Oh my God.
Different.
That's completely different. Like that. It's just the market's different, right? Like the market's completely different, man. Like those guys, they would not stop ever. Right? Like they just wouldn't stop. And I think another thing is there's so many of the press corps that get alone time with Kyle for their exclusive stories. So they don't ask questions in the press conference for everyone to hear and then to use. So I think back to the combine, right? So you hear me yelling out a question, you hear Brad, you hear some of the reporters, but Matt and JLC and all those other guys, they don't really say anything because they get alone time with them, and then they can present new facts in that way or whatever they ask directly. And I think sometimes that's a little bit what comes into play in terms of if I ask this question and I get a loaded answer and I get something that's substantial or something that people can run with, anyone can write it. Instead, I might just keep this to myself and ask, and then I'll write it and then, put it out there like that. Does that make sense?
Which is a selfish way to do it, because you as a beat writer are not there for you. You're there for us. You're there for the fans. It's not about you. It's about the fans. You are the conduit. You are the fans' representative and contact with the team. But that's not how they look at it. They look at it as my article. It's hilarious to me that Tim Kawakami and Matt Barrows and all these guys like to talk about how desperate all of us content creators are for clicks. The Athletic is so desperate for clicks right now. Every article gets graded on how many clicks it gets. They're just as desperate as the rest of us. So I don't want to hear any of that.
And the 49ers do not plan on playing many starters versus the Titans. I don't think that's earth-shattering news, and I don't think nobody expected them to do that. But
plenty of guys.
We got to see. Yeah, I know what certain guys are. I'm not going to learn anything about those guys. I need to learn about the other guys, right? Like I need to see Renardo Green. I need to see Malik Mustafa. I need to see Ricky Pearsall. I need to see, well, not anymore, right? I need to see Jacob Cowing. I would have loved to have seen Isaac Guerrero. That would have been really cool. Like I need to see the guys that we don't know anything about as opposed to what I can set my watch to with the 49ers.
So apparently, according to Andrew Filipponi, who talks about Pittsburgh sports on 93.7 The Fan, a station in Pittsburgh, the Niners are asking for a trade package involving the following in some way for Aiyuk: a first-round pick, Pat Freiermuth, the Steelers tight end, who's very solid, and George Pickens. Now, maybe not all of them, maybe some combination of them. I don't know. Good on the 49ers, because those are all interesting things. And if I'm Pittsburgh, there's no way I'm moving any one of those.
This is what I'm talking about, right? This is what we've been saying this entire time. The 49ers are trying to get Pittsburgh back to the talking table, and they're asking for a first rounder, their stud tight end that they just drafted, and a guy that if you trade him and get Aiyuk, you are no better today than you were yesterday. This is exactly what I've been saying. Like, this is why you bring them back to the table, because if Omar Khan does something stupid and does something like this, then all of a sudden you can justify it. George Pickens would be fine. coming back for Brandon Aiyuk. But why would the Steelers do that? It doesn't make them better. A first-round pick would be great. The Steelers are going to be 8-9, 9-8.
9-8. Yep, every year.
9-8. Make the playoffs. That's not going to be that high of a pick. It doesn't make sense to me, like, why this is all of a sudden being pushed. If it's the 49ers know he wants to go there, and they are literally asking for the stars. They're not even like, hey, what do you think about Jalen Warren or something like that? Or what do you think about, like, one of your mid-level guys? They're literally asking for it. Freiermuth is their positional tight end for the future. George Pickens is there. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This is why you try to get them back to the table to get them to do something stupid.
Going to do. They're not bidding against themselves. If you had an actual other team that's real competition, maybe we could have that discussion. But as of right now, as far as we know, it ain't there, man. It just ain't there. And it is crazy, Jay. But we could be living in a world where next year there's no Brandon Aiyuk on this team. Brock Purdy may be the quarterback of the future, may not. What if he has a bad year? What if they trade Aiyuk and all of a sudden the offense doesn't look as good? Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. Brock Purdy doesn't look as good. It's possible the Kirk Cousins rumors are not totally dead yet after this year. It's possible.
I need it. I need it so bad. I just need it because it's funny. But look, this is the funny part is you putting out the trade framework, and I've said it 5 times, I think, on this pod. The trade framework with 2 teams is supposed to scare the Pittsburgh Steelers into saying, all right, man, Smith but any of those moves for those guys you're moving on from, you are not better acquiring Brandon Aiyuk. You are not better. You are not better today. And even if you kept those guys and you got Brandon Aiyuk, you are not any closer to being a Super Bowl contending team. Love Brandon Aiyuk. I think the world of him. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are not a Brandon Aiyuk away from being Super Bowl contenders. They just are not.
Nick Bosa on the Brandon Aiyuk situation. Quote, "It's brutal. I trust John and Kyle, but he's a very tough player to replace." You know, I want to say this really quick. Javi Vega just tweeted the window is closing on this aging team. First of all, every team is an aging team, right? None of us are getting any younger. We're all an aging team.
Speak for yourself, pal.
Brock Purdy is still young. Yes, Aiyuk's future's up in the air, but he is young. Nick Bosa is not old, right? Nick Bosa is still in the prime of his career. Fred Warner is still in the prime of his career. Talanoa Hufanga is still in the prime, but not even reached the prime of his career. Jair Brown looks like he's, could be a player and is not in the prime of his career. Diamondor Lenore is not in the prime of his career. Yeah, I know the 49ers have some aging guys, but they still have a lot of young guys too.
David Lombardi says, a reporter asked Kyle Shanahan about his emotions as the 49ers traversed this Brandon Aiyuk saga. Shanahan's first words, calculated and prepared. That sounds kind of like not a goodbye, but like almost like I'm kind of ready to see if this is about to happen.
What I've heard about Kyle is that he's more Bill Belichick in terms of like being willing to get rid of guys. I don't know if that's true because it seems like they move heaven and earth for certain people like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think Kyle's going to be shedding any tears if Aiyuk's gone. I think Kyle thinks he can figure it out. He can fake it if he has to without Brandon Aiyuk. I really do think he thinks that.
Whew. Well, we got our answers, Rob. The press, they pushed. And Kyle came up with his word salads and his nothing burgers. That's all they chef up out there in Santa Clara. And lobster rolls for the media. But thank you guys for joining. This is a little bit longer of a podcast. Again, thank you guys for tapping in and being here, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to the Gold Standard Podcast Network, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Oh, we got a super chat at the buzzer. Got to get it.
Boom.
Yep. If the Niners can't justify paying BA $30 million because they don't pass enough, how do they justify paying BP potentially $60 million in a run-heavy offense? Now, this is a very good point, but I do believe that if that is what it's going to be, $55, $60 million is where we think it's all going to land, that you almost have to give Brock Purdy a little bit more control of the offense in every single way. So I think they're not prepared to give Brandon Aiyuk that amount of money in tandem with Brock Purdy. But when you pay somebody the going rate at quarterback, they're supposed to mask the things that you're missing, whether that's defenders and whether that is offensive weapons. And that's the hard part about paying quarterbacks. When you pay Josh Allen, you have to let really good players go because you can't pay them. But you expect Josh Allen to help you and mask that and cover that up. Now, if you're letting Aiyuk walk to pay Brock Purdy, then it's almost inherently that you have to give him a little bit more because of what you're probably going to be missing out on, unless Ricky Pearsall turns into a stud, and that's what we all hope. But I think that's what happens when you pay a quarterback. You kind of just give a little bit more responsibility to that quarterback.
It has to, because the salary cap is a zero-sum game. Every dollar you give to one guy is a dollar you can't give to somebody else. So when you pay a premium, as Jerry Jones always says, you have to get a premium in return. And a premium in this case is a guy that can make up for some deficiencies elsewhere on the roster, because your salary, by definition, creates those deficiencies. Patrick Mahomes, we saw, can still win a Super Bowl with a wide receiver core that was nowhere near as good as he's had in the past, right? He made up for those deficiencies. Now, he also had a great defense. That's a thing that's real. But when it was nut cutting time and they needed to go down and get a touchdown in the Super Bowl in overtime, they went right down the field. And that was 15 making those plays, whether he's throwing it or running it. You need that guy to make those plays. And if the Niners do give that money to Brock, then he's going to have to become that or they won't win.
Very, very interesting. At the buzzer, the super chat, very interesting conversation that I'm sure we'll dive into a lot more once we get a resolution one way or another. But again, let's get out of here, Rob. Thank you guys again for tapping in with us on hour 15. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the channel, like this video as well. Subscribe to the Bully Ball Podcast to the Gold Podcast Network. My God, I'm in shambles. Wherever you get your audio podcast, make sure you follow Rob on Twitter at StatsOnFire. Follow me at Jason Aponte 2103. Follow Steph and the video that she's gonna have dropping about training camp as well too. So you have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. Woo! For Rob, for Jay, I'm tired, man. Let's get out of here.
Peace.